Welcome to the Chamber's Connect with Career Week. Thank you to our sponsors, Capcom Federal Credit Union and Hoosick Valley Contractors. I'm Kate Manley, president of the Rensselaer County Regional Chamber of Commerce and your host for Connect with Careers. Today, we're joined by Keith Algozzine, founder and CEO of UCM Digital Health. Welcome, Keith.
Well, thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. So you're the founder and CEO of UCM. Tell us what UCM is and a little bit about your role as founder and CEO.
So my background is actually in emergency medicine. I'm an emergency medicine PA. Really just grew up, after I graduated college, taking care of patients in the ER. Slowly sort of began I'll call it my entrepreneurial, journey by recognizing a problem, like most entrepreneurs do, and recognizing that the world was telling patients they shouldn't go to the emergency room, yet the emergency room was such an amazing place for patients to go to as the safety net for them that we needed to stop blaming patients, I said. And I thought maybe a better way let's create a better solution for patients so they don't have to come to the ER, instead of just keep telling them to go to the ER without providing them that ER experience in a better way. So really, UCM Digital Health is the place where all care can begin digitally. Whether it's on your phone or on your computer, you can sort of begin your care journey with us, and we'll guide and direct you to the right care at the right place at the right time.
That's awesome. And you're located right down in Troy, New York, which is even fabulous. I know that the footprint of your company has a bigger footprint, but to have you right here is really terrific.
Yeah, no, we're excited to be here.
So you talked a little bit about your personal pathway, but can you start from like a high school student, what you wanted to do and kind of how you got where you are? You said you're a PA by background, but more background on that.
Yeah. So I kind of have I think a good story to tell high school students, and particularly if you're not sure what you want to do, right? Because it shouldn't scare you, right? It should, if nothing else, it should excite you. So I was sure in high school that I was going to be a coach. I absolutely love sports. I realized my ceiling was not going to be able to play professionally. So I thought, well, fine. If I can't make a career out of playing sports because I'm just, not tall enough or not fast enough or not strong enough, I can still live it by being a coach. So I went to college with a major as a freshman of physical education, because I thought, I'll be a phys ed teacher, and that'll sort of get me into coaching, and then I'll take that into coaching. I was halfway through my first semester and I hated it. I was like, oh my gosh, I just don't like it. This is not what I thought it was. I don't want to be a phys ed teacher. I still might want to be a coach, I guess, but I don't like it. So I decided at that point, I got to do something else. Because of my background in sports, I still was looking in that way. And I used to walk by the training room in my college, and I used to see all the athletes, getting treatment on injuries and things. I said, well, that's cool. So I went and learned about that, and I saw, wow, this is great. I'm going to go be a sports medicine major. So my college had a very sort of prestigious sports medicine program. So I went to my advisor and I said, I need to change my major. I'm going to sports medicine. He didn't want to put his glasses up, looked at all this stuff. He's like, no, you can't do that. You're not smart enough. I literally was like, and me, I was like the golden child. Like my parents were the ones who like foolishly told me, you can go play in the NBA, Keith, whatever you want, your dreams, you can do it. So I had never been told no. And this guy was just like in 2 seconds, was like, no, you're not smart enough. And I remember thinking like, I almost cried. Like, I mean, I didn't cry, but it was like, that feeling where you're like somebody just gut punched you. And I left that office. I was so, and then my sort of upsetness turned to anger. And I was so pissed off that I just immediately said, forget this guy, I'm going to do it. And for the next semester, I got like straight A's. I went to all the classes that I need to get into. And I eventually got into that program, and I finished with the sports medicine major. And then again, I don't want to drone on too long, but then once I started learning about sports medicine, I wanted to go further in medicine. And at that point, I learned about, PA school being a potential path where I could do multiple things, sports medicine, orthopedics, emergency medicine, whatever I wanted to, versus if I went to med school, I had to specialize in something. So I decided to do that. And that's how I became a PA, which led to that other story of living in the ER and now being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So when you took that risk necessarily, I mean, like you were doing well as a PA, and I know you wanted to solve a problem. So was that like a big like talk about that risk to jumping into starting a business?
Yeah, it's funny. I would say fear is the number one thing that holds people back in life, period. I don't care whether it's, fear to go ask your boss for a raise, fear to go just, change your major or anything. So to me, I've just always, I think, been blessed with the gift of sort of not being fearful of change. But that's a little bit innate. I think for some people that's harder than others. For me, it was just naturally easy. I've just never been afraid. It's just a quality that I've had. But I think that you're right to point it out, because there is a certain level of risk that you have to be able to take in life in general. And an entrepreneur is a bigger risk than some people are willing to take. But I would encourage people to take risks, because it's sort of cliche, but without risk, there's no reward. So I'm sure you've taken many risks in your life to get to your path. If you look at most successful people in life, and success can be defined in many ways, they probably took some risks along the way, and they're happy they did.
That's a great segue into one of our students asked the question of each of the presenters, how do you define success? So what does success mean to you?
So me personally, I'm incredibly goal-oriented and mission-driven. So for me, I really want to change healthcare. I want to make healthcare better than it is today. And if I do that, I'm going to be wildly successful. Whether I stayed as a PA working in the ER, my patients would just benefit at a smaller level. And now I'm looking to impact millions and millions of patients through my company. So I tend to be somebody who's goal-oriented, mission-driven, but not to like a ridiculous altruistic way. It's going to benefit me greatly too. So I also don't sort of sugarcoat it by saying, just follow your mission and your dreams without any sort of selfish goals, because sure, if I'm successful, it is going to benefit me personally as well.
That's great. So when we talk about different pathways, because I think a lot of the times, and even your story resonated with that, we think of these flashcard jobs. Like I know my PE teacher, so I'll be that, or I know my coach, so I'll do that.
Yeah.
But obviously the pathways in healthcare are vast. So what kinds of pathways do you have in general healthcare, or even specifically with UCM that people could get involved with?
So generally, to me, healthcare is just an amazing place to go. If you go into healthcare, I really do feel like the world is your oyster. So you can be on the care side. You can be a nurse or a doctor or a PA or a physical therapist or just, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of true clinical jobs where you're actively helping patients. And we can never have too many of those people. So that's just a sort of obvious path. But the other exciting thing about healthcare is sort of at a tipping point where technology and sort of business model is intersecting. So if you want to go write code and be a developer, right? There's amazing opportunities to shape the future of healthcare. If you want to go into business and finance, there's amazing ways that you can shape the future of healthcare through business and finance innovation. So I think healthcare is so broad that if you have a passion to help people, better their lives in any way, even if you're like, well, I can never see blood, or I can, I can never interact with patients. You can take amazing technology and business and finance and so many other skill sets and apply it to healthcare, because we're at this amazing sort of tipping point that you can actually you can make and shape change.
Absolutely. So, and that tipping point too has, with the pandemic, I'm sure you've seen great changes into and even just expansion of this whole digital health and telemedicine. So, can you talk a little bit about how the pandemic has shaped this as well?
Yeah. So I laugh because people, we've been doing this,
Right.
for over 5 years, and people would always ask, well, this is cool, but it's not mainstream yet. When do you think the tipping point is coming? Right. And I was like, I used to sort of give my answers, and now I can say March 11th, 7:11 a.m. We lived it. I know I can tell you when the tipping point was. Our world changed. So it's been an amazing thing to sort of witness a true, tipping point, type of analogy that everyone talks about in industries happen for healthcare and happen for digital health in particular. So it's been really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, if you were giving advice to high school students who are interested in starting a business, what would you say to them?
I would say, besides all the cliches, which are true, right? Like, make sure you find a problem that really needs to be solved and solve it, right? That's sort of it can't be said enough, because there are so many things that you can build and do great things, but if it doesn't solve a problem that's great enough that somebody would then pay for your solution, doesn't matter how great your solution is, because your problem wasn't big enough. So I'm always going to say that to people because it's just so true.
Yeah.
But the other piece of advice I would say is start small. And what I mean by that is, if you can affect change in your own backyard and breed real success, that's how you grow something amazing. I think there's a lot of sort of, whether it be through sort of our social media lens, or through, just what you've seen out there, the Facebooks, the Googles of the world, that you have to do something so big and so massive and so fast, that the reality is most really unique, amazing things start small and get perfected in a small vacuum. And once you perfect something small, then you can grow it and scale it and build it to something amazing. But do something amazing that is truly amazing, small, and then build it big. That would be my best advice.
That's great. So, what are some of the skills you and your team use on a daily basis, whether it be technical skills or communication skills? What are some of the things that you guys use over there?
So, I mean, I think with us, it definitely, our mission is still at our core to focus on taking care of people. So I guess from a standpoint of pure healthcare service, we just want to care for people. We really want to make sure that, in healthcare is sort of unique to anything else in the world, but it's just so personal, right? It can be a sniffle, but it's the most important thing in the world to that person that day, that sniffle. And it's your own body, and it's personal. So we have to sort of have a higher bar, I believe, in healthcare to really focus on that. The second piece I would say from a technology standpoint, which is cool, is we need to make the technology so good that you don't even know you're using it, right? I mean, we don't want you to feel like you're using technology to get care. We want you to just get care. And the technology has to be so, like, that is like said so simply, but so hard, right? Think how many technology interactions you've had on your computer today, or on your apps, or this or that it feels like technology because it's not working perfectly. So we sort of just, relentlessly pursue the ability for technology to deliver care in a way that makes people not even know they're using technology.
That's awesome. So, my final question, any last piece of advice to students or young professionals?
Last piece of advice on a big, let's see, eat your vegetables.
All the important healthy things, right?
And listen to your mom and dad. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Keith, for joining us. And I'm sure our students will probably have some follow-up questions that they'll be able to connect with you. And it's great that this amazing company is located right here in our backyard. So thanks for joining us here today.
Thank you.